Workstream 3.3 Training of Trainers PAL Project Help and Guidance in the Possibilities of Personal Development. The objective of the session presented is to capacity operators and the target group to support Roma youth to map out a plan to develop the skills needed to enhance and improve their possibilities in personal development and set out reliable and smart goals with specific relation to access employment and labor markets. This presentation may serve as a resource material for both the training of trainers and possibly on-site trainings, targeting all the categories of people working with Roma people or working with marginalized groups, who can play a role in ensuring a quality service provision to these communities in terms of developing their personal and professional skills. Here following the detailed presentation. The approach that we are proposing in this presentation is dual. We have been taking in consideration the point of view of both the operator and the target group. First, we are exploring techniques of group evaluation, then we go to the individual techniques of evaluation. We want people to understand how to provide friendly services for helping professional development and professionals without stigmatizing and labeling people out from accessing services for being Roma. Cooperative learning can be defined as a set of small groups conduction techniques where participants play learning activities and through teamwork. It's a teaching method based on mutual aid, cooperation, and the sharing of a program that aims to reach common goals, mutually improving the level of learning. The target group will develop learning skills and social skills to define possible job placement paths, even by comparison with other experiences. On the side of the operators, they will promote the comparison and the learning of technical and operational management methodologies, targeting specifically the employability of Roma through the exchange of good practices and identification of shared hypotheses of intervention. In details, when we talk about cooperative learning, we mean positive interdependence, face-to-face relationship, teaching and the use of social skills, individual and group responsibility, individual and group assessment. The teacher is in fact a facilitator and an organizer of the learning activity itself. Its role can be summarized as defining the cognitive and social objectives of the activities, organizing the group, giving the roles, organizing the spaces, preparing the materials, monitoring the overall process, and evaluate it. We are here also talking about the technique called the focus group. These are talks targeting a fixed number of people, from about 8 to 12 persons, with a moderator of course, whose attention must be focused on a specific topic. Within the PAL project, the use of focus group can play a double purpose, as like foster the dialogue among the operators from a single organization as well as from different organizations, on the level of effectiveness of the interventions implemented, to identify cases of success or possible failures if they are. Foster the dialogue between users to identify critical issues and opportunities related to the labor markets and integration in general of Roma people and marginalized groups. The use of focus group is recommended, is very flexible, and can be used at any time between operators or users. In particular, it can be useful when we need to get a feedback on a specific issue, or when we need to identify critical issues and common goals. We now want to go and to look more at the operator, somehow talking about how to stimulate the process of creating for the target group a specific and personal development plan. And this process typically starts with the interview. So now we have few slides about the interview process and how to create a powerful CV for the target group so that people can access the labor market powerfully. The interview. Of course, the setting of the interview is crucial to guide the user when he enters the employment market. First, the operator must be sure that the client feels comfortable. The operator observes the movement of the body and includes in his evaluations the respondent's lexical uncertainty. It's fundamental that the privacy is respected during the interview, avoiding the presence of other persons or any sounds, and outside of the structure. The operator must introduce himself or herself and describe the work that will be done together with the user. All the steps that they will do together to facilitate the person to get work opportunities. The operator must also explain and show to the clients exactly the opportunities that the structure is offering him. This is very important to make the client aware of what he can expect from the interview and from the assistance of the organization. What is also essential is that between the operator and the users, there is a relationship based on trust and honesty. The operator shall use all the experience gathered and welcoming attitude with the client, his understanding and his intuition for asking the right questions to make the person comfortable to suggest the right solutions. If we want the user to be open, frank and comfortable with us, and if we want to guide him correctly to social and labor integration. It has to be taken into account the context of origin of the client, all the logistical difficulties and issues and the problems that the person can deal with during this process and during the future social and integration process, especially when people are looking for work. For these reasons, the operator must have great humanity and great sensitivity with the person and flexibility to be able to implement different approaches. It's also essential to motivate the person, to make him to understand that he can transform failures or errors on occasions and positive things to work on and reflect. It has also to be said that the operator must have a very clear map of services available at local level, at least at his level. It has to be very clear to the operator exactly what he can offer or not within his context. He must be in contact with the services available and all the facilities in order to be capable to give detailed answers to the target group and concrete solutions to the client. And he must be able to monitor all this process from the beginning to the end. On the basis of the meetings realized, the operators and the user at the end must be able to clearly know the strengths and weaknesses of the overall process. This must be done also through a SWOT analysis, and the operator can guide the client through this process. The SWOT analysis can be typically carried out before the process starts, during the process, and after, and includes the analysis and the identification of strengths and weaknesses, which are endogenous factors, and opportunities and threats that are external factors that may arise from the environment, from the external context. We need to keep these factors under control to clearly understand what we can do and what we can offer or not. Here follows an example. The overall process, when we are at this stage, once the operator has already gained trust of the client and has already understood the context and the potentialities of the client, ends with the preparation of the curriculum vitae. Preparing the CV is also fundamental. We can say that is the business card for the client. He will use it to enter the labor market. So, the operator must ensure that the skills of the user are very well presented in order to increase the employability of the client. The main information must be immediately clear once we read the CV. The main professional profile of the candidate and his personal ambitions. For many jobs, might be useful also to add to the CV a letter in which the candidate write down few words on his experiences, educations, and the reasons why he would like to be considered for the position he's applying for. However, we can get more information on the CV and template instructions at the Europass web link here below indicated. During the process of drafting the curriculum vitae, the operator continues his work of empowering the client through trying to understand all the user's professional life that in some cases can be not very consistent. So the operator is the person who must help the client to collect adequate information and to make him to understand what he can really do or not. So he can also suggest the client whether he needs a specific professional training or not, for example, or he can even suggest to the client to take a different path or different orientations of the labor market. Sometimes during the interview, it may also happen that the operator understands that the person did many jobs in his life and becomes really difficult to understand his or her possible career's future goals. The principal role of the operator at this stage is to help and guide the person to achieve professional consistencies, to meet his expectations to the best. Along with the CV, once this process ends, again, it's very important to provide the client with a list of the with a complete list of employment centers and the employment guidance centers, with a list of sites for job search and all the information we have on types of contracts and policies and norms, and verify possibly all the documentation legally required by the employers in general. All this process can be empowered, making both the operator and the client to understand how we can develop a personal business plan, a personal idea of business. Typically, we say that the business plan describes in detail the main aspects of evaluating a business idea: the technical feasibility of the initiative, the commercial and productive goals, the organizational, economic, and financial feasibility. If done well, it's a very powerful tool that will help both the operator to help the client to turn his idea into business. The business plan will somehow help the user to understand how to start up his business, and we can call this stage as a self-evaluation. And on the other hand, it can be a very powerful instrument to persuade potential lenders or potential employers or institutions to invest in the idea of the client or in his future company. For example, providing him with grant facilities. In this context, the main role of the operator is to support the client in the self-evaluation of the entrepreneurial process, however, without replacing him or overlapping with his ideas. The overall process is defined through a set of questions to which the client must respond to implement all the process of the business plan.